Republican. Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee joins us now right here on CNN Max. Congressman, great to see you. I know you're also on the House Oversight Committee, so let me just start right there. Why is your party launching this impeachment inquiry, even as we're just a couple of days from a government shutdown?
Well, the committee's still, Jim, as you know, the committees will still be meeting, I hope. I know I have to hold my voice down because we usually don't get started until 10 or 10:30, and I don't want to wake anybody up in Congress with this impending shutdown. It just seems right. I called back home to my wife in Tennessee, and she'd been up working in the barn and the farm there since 6 o'clock, and most Americans are up working. And as you know, we work very little up here, and then we take a 2-hour lunch break, and then we walk out of a meeting at about 4 o'clock with our Brooks Brothers suit thrown over our shoulder and our sleeves rolled up, claiming we've been working really hard, and America doesn't buy it. Both parties do it, and it's ridiculous. We need to get back to work. We need to solve this thing, this budget. But you asked me about the impeachment hearings that we're having today, and they are it's just been ongoing. It's the latest, of course, is the wire transfer from China, and it lists Joe Biden's family, his residence, as the I guess the recipient, for lack of a better word. And now the question, of course, is going to be is what Ken Buck has raised. He is a former prosecutor, and he's a very honorable guy. And he says, look, you've got to tie it in with him being currently president. And that's kind of the rub that we're in. And now with this latest Chinese transfer, it is apparently when $250,000, and I believe another one was for $10,000. It's actually a organization controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, and the group is responsible for buying up farmland and things like that. And Joe Biden wrote the guys that runs it, his daughter, a recommendation for college or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but Congressman.
But anyway, that's and they're trying to tie that in, and they're saying that is. But he is when he had already announced that he was running for president. So they're trying to tie that in, and I just think it's.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are we going to see some documents? Because not to jump in there, but. If we're going to be talking about wire transfers and it went from this place to this place and the president and his family and so on, will Republican lawmakers during this impeachment inquiry show documents to the American people establishing what you're saying? Because, I mean, you can come on and you can say, this wire transfer over here and the Biden family over there and it happened on this day. But you need documented evidence, don't you? Don't you need something to have some credibility here? Instead of, I heard this on this, website and that kind of thing. We will. We absolutely will. And that's a great question. And I think we're going to do some of that today. But the interesting thing is about all this is that you're seeing Democrats, at least to me, openly questioning this presidency. And I'm not so certain that some of this is being done by his own people, because they're trying to jettison him to get somebody else in there to run for president. I know that sounds conspiracy theorist, but you know this town better than most. It's vicious, and you're only good as the last second, and it's just and that second's over. So let's talk about the government shutdown, because the government shutdown is going to be happening in a couple of days from now unless something happens. Let's listen to what the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, said on the Senate floor yesterday. He does not sound very happy with Republicans in the House right now.
A vote against a standard short-term funding measure is a vote against paying over $1 billion in salary for Border Patrol and ICE agents working to track down lethal fentanyl and tame our open borders.
Yeah, what do you think of that, Congressman? I mean, Senator McConnell making the point that, if you want to crack down on the border, what are you doing shutting down the government? You're not going to be paying Border Patrol agents. Are you okay with that, Border Patrol agents not getting paid?
Well, of course not. The last thing any of us want is a shutdown. Even my conservative friends that I'm a part of, we were meeting late last night talking about it, and that is the last thing. Nobody wants that. but it's the only option that we're given when we're sitting here not meeting, not talking about it, not discussing the problems. And then we continue, and Senator McConnell is kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth, because the truth is that they can decide where other cuts can be made. And he is sending over a bill that's got billions of dollars in it for Ukraine, and he knows that's a poison pill. You know, here we are in September, Jim. Here we are in September.
Don't you want to help the Ukrainian people? Don't you want to help the people of Ukraine defend themselves against the Russians?
Not at the expense of America. We've opened our border. If Mitch McConnell wanted to do something, he should have had a bill to strengthen our border when we're having hundreds of thousands of people come over every month. I mean, I know a family in Knoxville who they lost their child because of an illegal alien. It actually killed them. And so, I mean, you just go town after town after town, the fentanyl, the human trafficking, all that. But this is what they do in Washington. They wait to the last minute. They push you up against a wall, and then they load it up. They're not telling you about all the other stuff that they're loading you up with, the multi-billion dollars to Ukraine. Yet the people in Maui have we taken care of them yet? You know,
but I mean, what about the argument that we're the United States of America and that you can do both? And if you don't help the Ukrainians defend themselves, Putin goes into Poland, Putin goes into the Baltic states. It's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive then, isn't it?
Well, Europe needs to step up. Germany's pulling out. Some of these other countries are pulling out. They need to step up. It's their war. Russia, everybody tries to make some analogy about Russia. Their GDP is somewhere between Canada's and France. So why aren't we attacking China when they're obviously imprisoning the Uyghur population, forced organ harvesting, things like that are going on a daily basis, yet nobody wants to talk about it? Why aren't we talking about our State Department, our own State Department, which was yesterday we uncovered that they are funding organizations that they are in their own documents list as terrorist organizations. You know, there's so much out there, Jim, that we need to be looking at.
I hear you.
And by putting that in this bill, he knows that'll kill it, and so he can take the high road, and that's what they always do. And they'll cause the most pain they can possibly do. You won't see any of the fat cats cut out of anything. Well, they're just going to hit working Americans, veterans, locking up. Putting fences around veterans' monuments and things like that, and that's ridiculous. And the American public buys. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That leads me to the last thing, and even though we have the luxury of time on CNN Max, there are some time constraints. But one final thing I wanted to get into, Congressman, is you have said you are not going to take pay. Is that correct? If the government shuts down, and I just wonder if your Republican colleagues have thought this through fully, that they're going to be getting paychecks if the government shuts down, while members of the military and border patrol aren't getting their paychecks. Aren't you worried about self-inflicted wounds here for your party?
I am, but I'm worried more about our country. We have a shutdown about every 2 to 3 years, and the average lasts about 8 days. Social Security checks are going to continue, and all the government employees will receive full back pay. And no veteran's going to lose his house. It's against the law if we're in this situation that they would take their house and everybody's going to receive their back pay. And this again is another trick. We just hit $33 trillion in debt, and nobody wants to talk about it. And that's what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to get some fiscal sanity so we can take care of those people much better.
All right. And you're just very quickly, you think there's going to be a shutdown? It doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I do, Jim. Yes, sir, I do.
All right, Congressman Burchett, always enjoy talking to you. Thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Hey, Jim, don't forget, when I'm in the White House, the Burchett administration, you'll be invited back to the White House.
Right. Sounds good. I hope so. I'm going to hold you to that. I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.